is chapter 15, The Way of the Supreme. This analogy of the Supreme is of an upside down tree, with its branches extending below and its roots above. And this represents the action into the worlds of men, with the various teachings representing the branches of this tree. And if we see where the root of where even the Vedas come from, the Vedas are said to be the branches of this tree extending to the worlds of men, then we're able to discern the root and the source, the Supreme Self, which is beyond the seed of the tree and the tree itself, which are really one and the same. So, I'll begin. The way of the Supreme Self. So Krishna then, he says, I speak of an imperishable Ashvata tree. Ashvata means the fig tree, as the fig is said to descend from above and rise to meet it. They speak of an imperishable Ashvata tree, with its roots above and branches below. Its leaves are the Vedas, and he who knows it knows the Vedas. So all the teachings derive from the root of the source. This is that one who knows this tree, they're able to cut it down with the strong axe of non-attachment and with knowledge. Now, the description of the tree is thus, that above and below spread its branches, spreads down and spreads above, and it's nourished by the gunas, the forces of nature, the sense objects, sound, sight, taste, smell, and touch are its buds. Its clustering roots spread downward in the world of men, giving rise to action. So all of the activity in the world we can associate as the tree. And this is to help us understand the symbolic tree of life. It's referred to here. And also the tree that the awakened one sat and meditated under. Very symbolic. So its true form is incomprehensible, and not to be comprehended here, nor its end, nor its origin, nor even its existence or non-existence. And having cut it down with the firm root of non-attachment, one takes refuge in that ancient one from the beginning that has streamed forth since eternity. And finally seeks that goal from which one is to never return. Important to understand. To attain this goal, to reach the Supreme Self, the place that one does not return, they are free from pride and delusion. They've conquered the evils of attachment. They're devoted to the Supreme Self, which means they've gone beyond the pairs of opposites, with the desires of the mind that have been stilled, liberated from the pairs of opposites, such as pleasure and pain, the undiluted and the unwavering with mind, they reach that unchanging goal. So, correlation is that the Supreme Self, beyond the pair of opposites, beyond even Prakriti and Purusha, which are just the manifestation of the tree. I mean, the Purusha being the seed, and Prakriti being the tree itself. That which is beyond the tree, that's been cut down, seen through renunciation, is the unchanging. And so this is the goal. It is the illumination, that which illumines the sun, that which illumines the moon. It is the light and fire, the supreme abode and the refuge. And those who reach it, they don't return. And beings, as portions of light, are portions of this Supreme Self in the world of activity. And we see this in the light in one's eyes, the light in one's words and their speech, which are extensions of this energy. Krishna says, an eternal portion of myself, having become a living soul in the world of living beings. It draws to itself the five senses, with the mind for the six which abide in Prakriti. So the five senses, the mind, the eye, the understanding. This is Prakriti. This is nature. And understanding that, these are always connected. That those 8 attributes follow each other. Like the analogy of Krishna holding the reins and steering the 5 horses. So this Lord that resides within the heart of all beings, he acquires a body, and when he leaves, he takes with him the 5 senses and the mind, and he goes his way as the wind carries away the scents from their places. This is the karma. As like a ship being carried by the wind, karma guides, directs us like a ship being carried by the wind. Know that Supreme Self is beyond karma and the movements of the mind. So when this is recognized, the true knower and the true self, the Supreme Self, instead one has risen above the pairs of opposites. So the sense organs, such as the ear, the eye, the touch, taste, smell, and the mind, they experience the objects of the senses. But those who do not see, don't have the eye of wisdom, do not perceive the unchanging one when he departs from the body. They perceive the Supreme Self to be the body, or the body of beings, that, when this body perishes, they go. So they don't see the eternal, nor do they see the tree, the field, or the knower of the field. So when he experiences the objects of the senses, so the deluded do not perceive the Supreme Self in the body with the objects, nor is that self, nor do they see that self united with the gunas. But they who have the eye of wisdom, they perceive. They perceive something that's unchanging. So those who possess this knowledge of self-actualization, they strive, armed with yoga, armed with fortitude, and they behold, dwelling within themselves, within their heart, a portion of the Supreme Self. But the undisciplined mind and the thoughtless do not perceive that, though they strive, because they may perceive that as something out there, something that I will attain one day. So they don't recognize that which has always been there from the beginning. So this illumination is the light that is in the sun and the moon. It illumines the whole universe, the light of the sky. It is a light we see in the stars, and is likewise the light in fire. Know that light to be your own. As Krishna says, that light is mine. That is your nature. And the quality of light is sattva, the forces of nature. Entering into the earth, says Krishna, I sustain all beings by my energy. This is the force of nature, the gunas. And becoming the sap of moon, I nourish all herbs. It means it becomes the energy of the sap, and the moon, the elixir, the soma. And we have this elixir within the field. The tree naturally produces the sap, and the tree is produced, that's the eightfold qualities that keep revolving around and around. The Supreme Self is also recognized as the Vaishvanara fire. This is the fire of digestion, where all foods are partaken of. The foods of eating, but chewing, sucking, licking, swallowing. They're all digested in the fire. And it says it's the light that is the Supreme Self, a small portion of oneself that resides within living beings. The Vishvanara fire enters the body of all living creatures, and mingling with the upward and downward breaths, boom, we have the Samana Vayu in the lower abdomen. So, digesting the various kinds of foods. Supreme Self, says Krishna, I am seated in the hearts of all. all beings, no exception here, and for me are memory and knowledge, the recollection of past lives and teachings that have been told before, and even the Vedas, they all arise from this supreme source. That's why he says he is the seat. And their loss as well. Ignorance as an extension of the tree that have been cut down. Knowledge is lost. It is I alone who am to be known through all the Vedas. Where said the Supreme Self is the highest goal, the object of knowledge itself. And I'm indeed the author of Vedanta, means the storyteller, and the knower of the Vedas, that which is to be known. So the author of Vedanta is the tree, and the knower of the Vedas is the knower of the tree. And we're in the last chapter, what is knowledge? To know the field, and the knower of the field is knowledge. Same thing is being said here. To know the author of Vedanta, the end of knowledge. The author is a doer. The doer is Prakriti, nature. So, woo. Going on. So there are two kinds of beings in the world, the perishable and the imperishable. So the perishable, they comprise all creatures, as all beings are a manifestation of the Supreme Self, and the imperishable is said to be the unchanging, that which does not change and lies beyond the tree, which is why it is to be cut down with the strong axe of non-attachment. But beyond these pairs of opposites between a tree and the knower of the tree, be the opposites of the perishable and the imperishable, that which is said to be nameless, formless, and eternal, which as soon as you name it, as soon as you call it samsara and nirvana, you're caught in the dualistic web of nature. And this is why we can only refer through name, through designation, that which is really unchanging and imperishable. But there is another being, says Krishna, the highest, beyond these pairs. It's called the Supreme Self, who, as the immutable, which means the unchanging, pervades all and sustains the three worlds of the form, the formless, and the desire. So, said that the knower, or the seed, we associate as the Purusha. Purusham Prakriti. The Sanskrit word for this term is the Purushottama, which means that which is the supreme person, the Supreme Self. So beyond even Purusham Prakriti, the Purushottama. So the Lord himself is the Supreme Self, and Krishna is the embodiment of the Purushottama. As I surpass the perishable, and I'm higher than the imperishable. Higher than the imperishable, we said that the Supreme Self is the imperishable, but it's beyond designation. Beyond even the name. So as soon as you say it, I'm beyond that, beyond concept, beyond thought. Existence, man. Or non-existence. Neither existence nor non-existence. As I am extolled in the world, explained, and in the Vedas as the Supreme Self, the Purushottama. So the result of this knowledge is such. He who is undiluted, who knows this, who knows that which is beyond the pairs of opposites, knows me as the Supreme Self. He knows all of Bharata, and he worships me with all his heart. This is a devotee endowed with love. And thus, O Sinless One, has this profound teaching been imparted by me to you. By knowing it, a man becomes wise and fulfills all duties. So knowing it, all actions are fulfilled, for all actions occur within the tree. And those who know the tree as the world of action, and they know the root of the action, and beyond even the tree itself, through a renunciation, through non-attachment, you have cut the birth, rebirth, old age, sickness, and death at its root, and one attains the highest, immortality, deathless and eternal. The Supreme Self, the Purushottama, thus ends this chapter. Next chapter is the understanding of the divisions between the divine and the demonic qualities, that within nature, within the tree, We call these the devas and the asuras. And if you're drawn to the world of activity, restless, chasing desires, these are the qualities of the asuras. The English translation will be demonic. We can say it's demonic in some ways. But it's important to understand what the difference is between divine and demonic. How one leads to liberation and when the other leads to further activity in generating a tree. So, I'll see you in the next lesson.